This is Susan Morgan, and I am here with a fresh, wonderful guest named Michael of Sedona. And he will be speaking at our event this coming May 19th through the 22nd in Sedona. And it's titled Contact 2022. And it's about enhancing our awareness and our consciousness and coming to realize in a very experiential way that we really are cosmic beings in a cosmic universe, and that it is shared with all kinds of living things, good, bad, and indifferent, but generally good. My experiences are personally very good. So welcome, Michael. Thank you very much for coming on and sharing your story and what you'll be offering this coming May.
Well, thanks, Susan. Glad to be invited to introduce myself to your audience. I'm a scientist, a physicist, a mathematician, a pilot. I spent the 80s working for the Department of Defense on missile and satellite systems. And after I retired, this led to that, and I became a firsthand contactee. So where do you want to go from there?
Okay, so prior, because usually the contactee story is it starts when they're children. And
well,
but that was not the case with you.
No, that was my first face-to-face contact was in 2001. But my first interaction apparently was when I was 2.
Right.
And I was gifted with all mathematics through analytical geometry, and was demonstrating that in only ways that a 2-year-old can, when there's no crayons, but they always find a way to draw. I was doing mathematical relationships and geometric figures and things of that nature at 2. And it seems that was my first language, was mathematics, which is interesting because that's the creator's language, and it's the only truth that there really is. And that was my filter that I've learned everything else through from the beginning. Was first there was math, and now everything else I've learned since then relates to the math, and that's what makes it true and real, or it doesn't, and therefore it's false and part of a facade that you're fed, and hopefully you'll believe it, but hopefully you won't believe it.
This is interesting. There's a topic today because this is the third conversation today I've had about math. And I cannot think of, do you remember, you may know, the man from India in the early 1900s who was, you can't even call him a math genius or a math savant. It begins with an R. Do you remember his name by any chance?
No, I don't, but I do know that I do remember hearing the story.
Yeah. And that if you were to ask him, where was he getting this information from? Well, he was talking about black holes and the mathematics of black holes long before anyone even talked about black holes. Like, where is he getting this information? And he said it was connected to a deity. He had a math deity that worked through him and that just loved to talk about math. He knew nothing about math prior. It's kind of like you in a way at 2 years old. It's not like somebody trained you or taught you this. What did your parents think about all this? That's just a side. I'm just curious.
Well, it ended up shortly that I had to get A's in school, or else I was accused of slacking. So, because of the backing of everything being mathematical and formulaic, history and language and music and everything else came along very easy. I never had to open a textbook all through school, and was pretty much a straight A student. And then the second addition to my base of information came when I was 7.5 years old, and I was living in Glendale, California, and I got a dream and woke up from this dream with 2.5 billion years of our solar system's history in my head. So now I've got this basis of mathematics, which had to have been necessary to understand the rest of the information. And then I got this dream that's the history of which planets were here originally, which planets came late, what the Great War did to the big planet that's now the asteroid belt, variety of things, how the moon got here. I'm gonna have to let that roll.
Got a lot of calls coming in.
So that was so as a child, those were my two interactions with ET, and I didn't know it at the time, of course, because I just had the information. It wasn't until my face-to-face contact in 2001 in Phoenix that I realized where that information came from,
Okay.
because I asked a question and they responded with some information that was exactly the information that I got from the dream.
Wow. Now, are
And
you
that's when I knew that it was they who had been interacting with me, prepping me, probably for what's going on right now, prepping me for my whole life for these events that are now. The Great War is returned, by the way.
right? Exactly. Exactly. So you're not talking about the event of May 19th through the 22nd in Sedona. You're talking about the events happening on our earth right now in lifetime.
In
Exactly.
space, on Earth, under Earth, right now.
Okay. So, and that's what you're going to give your talk about, which I've got you scheduled for Sunday morning. Are you
Oh,
feeling up
okay.
for this on a Sunday morning?
Good to know. Oh
Yes.
yeah, my wife and I do sermons at our conferences on Sunday morning, so we're up and ready.
Okay. Well, will you be able to, all right. So you will be available because I can move the schedule around, but right now I've got you like from 10. I think I'm going to give you extra time too. Yeah, because we've got a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
So
Well,
how,
if you put a microphone in my hand and you can kind of go away for 6 hours and I'll
I
still
know.
be talking.
That's true. At least you recognize that. I kind of am the same way, which is kind of a problem sometimes. So I don't want you to talk too much about these beings that you had face-to-face contact with, because you're going to talk about that at the event. But could you just tell me a couple things, like how many of them were there?
It was three. They were all 8 foot tall,
I was going to ask you how tall.
very white, slightly blue, but they were not traditional Nordics nor tall whites. They had no hair. They had bumpy heads. I won't go into more detail than that on a description level, but they
Okay.
were so far beyond my computational ability that it really humbles a person. Like I've been in the 99 percentile of things, my whole life, as far as school and stuff is concerned. And I was suddenly the dummy in the room.
Right. And did you go looking for this contact with them? Was it
No, no,
face?
no. Well, not intentionally.
Right.
When I retired in 1990 from doing missile and satellite systems, I got recruited into, well, about 6, 7 years later, I got recruited into a group in Phoenix we call the Inner Circle. And that group, um, their reason for living was uncovering government cover-ups, a lot of time. So we were doing things like finding Kincaid's cave at the Grand Canyon and
Is
identifying
that where the Egyptian stuff is?
Yes, where it was. Yes, we were on top. I stood on top of the part where the crane was set that they lowered down and pulled the stuff out of the canyon wall with.
Oh my God. I didn't
And we
know
brought Fox TV out to show them. I mean, we really were there. And at
that.
this point, there were 17 of us in the Inner Circle.
So they
All of
wrecked
us.
it? They wrecked all the information that shows that Egyptians had been there? Or other beings that had similar cultural connections to Egypt? Did they wreck the evidence of that?
The evidence was pulled out. Here's what happened. Once Kincaid located where this was and reported the 6 foot golden Buddha that's in the wall of the canyon that he found, the Grand Canyon, the Smithsonian and the government financed an extension of the railroad tracks out of Flagstaff, brought it to the Grand Canyon, brought a rail there, unloaded all of the artifacts out of the canyon inner wall facility, which is rumored to have held 100,000 or more people. And they loaded all that stuff onto the train and then took the train out and then pulled the track back up. But we found rail pins, we found crushed water cans, we found evidence that the track had been there.
Wow.
But here's a part that's going to blow your mind. All right, I'm not going to go into detail on it because this might be something that people want to ask at the conference. But there was 17 of us in the Inner Circle, and Carla was my wife, is like the smallest and most nimble of the 17. So she's crawled down like over the side of the canyon, down onto this ledge, looking for ways that maybe we could get ropes down and go into the entrance, which is like 1,000 feet or more down below the top.
Oh my God.
And while she's there on the side of the canyon, a helicopter,
I already knew you were going to say this.
which none of us could see. This is in 2000. A helicopter goes bop, 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 right out of the canyon. We're spread out over about 3/4 of an acre, all of us looking at the same point of sound source, and nothing is visible to us.
Oh my God.
So this is the level of it's the level of defense that they have over, not wanting you to know things. They don't want you to know about Operation Indigo Skyfold, chemtrails. They don't want you to know about that. They don't want you to know about the micro poisons that they can put in your atmosphere that you breathe.
Right.
I want you thinking about that,
Right.
So there's a whole variety of things that we discovered and uncovered. And this culminated in weird things happening in our house. A ball of light flew through our bedroom that I flew out of the bed and chased, and it went like into the closet and apparently right through the closet, through the wall, out because couldn't find it. And then another time, the whole family, all three of us were in the back. We had lived on an acre. We were in the back property, and we noticed a shadow being walking through our house. And that, so I went in and to go full on, Rambo mode on this thing, and nothing there.
Right.
So, but the biggest of the events was in July of 2001. And that's when it was 3 a.m. and my wife and I are asleep in the California King waterbed. And all of a sudden I'm awake. And when I was only 42 years old, I didn't wake up in the middle of the night. And in this waking, I felt like I was having the spins a little bit, like I'd had one too many tequilas, but I hadn't been drinking. And in that 3 seconds, 2.5 to 3 seconds of going from unconscious to fully conscious, I realized I am moving out of my bed without the use of my arms or legs. And it's right at that moment I heard, and that was my lovely wife, Carla, saying Michael, but she couldn't say Michael because her lips and tongue and eyes and everything are frozen and she can't move. And I'm floating out of the bed. Next thing I find myself going down the hallway, rotating from.
Are you horizontal, by the way?
Yeah, going from face up down the hallway, which is really freaky because hallway ceilings are low. And I'm looking right straight up at it, right? So I started at the horizontal, and all of that 12-foot rotated to the vertical, and my toes hit the floor. My feet hit the floor. At the end of that 12 feet was where the hallway wall ends and the opening into the kitchen and family room and front door on the other side begins. Okay. So right at that point, I looked over to the front door, checked that it was locked from the inside, door closed. Nobody came in that way. And I scanned across over toward the kitchen mentally. And when I got past the halfway point, my stomach warned me that there's danger.
Oh.
And I planted my foot at the end of that hallway wall and spun into the kitchen, expecting to see a bunch of those little 3-foot guys.
Yeah, right.
I figured they're messing with me, right? Because I knew it wasn't,
Right.
natural, terrestrial, or even technology that we had. I know the technology that we have pretty much. This we didn't have.
Right.
So I spun into that kitchen expecting to go full on mental telepathy mode with whatever was in there. And I didn't see a bunch of little 3.5-foot beings. I saw legs. I saw legs in front of my stove and cabinetry, and it said 3:05 on the microwave clock. And I'm still looking upward. And then I'm finally seeing bodies and heads. And the heads were right up, but not touching, right up against, but not touching the ceiling. The ceiling was 8 foot too. So these beings were 8 foot. And all three of them, same height, slight differences between them. And I am a bit empathic and telepathic. And I could tell that their 3 brain forms were not the same. They weren't clones. They were 3 different beings.
Right. Wow.
Beyond that, now I'm in a mode where, see, I took an oath that I uphold over everything except to follow God. And that is and that is to the United States Constitution. And I have above top secret clearance and trained by the NSA and have all kinds of classified information in my head. And what I was concerned with was that these beings were here to pull information out of my head.
Right. Oh, because you've got,
As if I'm that important. Yeah, right. You know,
well,
as if I'm that important. And what I found out, of course, was that wasn't what they were there for. And there's a whole lot of story in there that we'll talk about if people want to hear it.
Now, have you put this in a book yet?
I do have a book. It's called Wake Up and Do Something.
But that was not about this experience, was it?
That's not particularly about the experience. All the experience is included in the book.
Oh, okay.
What I did was I have this Constitution rock band called Terra Anomaly, and we've done 2 albums.
Yeah.
I wrote the first one in 2014, released it in 2015. It's called Wake Up, and it's all the problems that this republic faces in a 42-minute message from beginning to end over 11 songs. Starts with Born in a Hue of Blue, ends with Last Man Standing.
Oh boy.
Then I wrote a follow-up album in 2018, 2017, well, actually from 2015 on, but mostly 2017, 2018. And it's called Do Something, because after you wake up, you have to do something, and do something has solutions to the problems that were mentioned. Now I'm working on a 3rd album. It's called Or Else.
Wow. Well,
so the lyrics are in the book. The book is called Wake Up and Do Something because it's all 20 songs, lyrics, and what the first, second, and third meanings are of the lyrics. Because some of these lyrics are inspired by my former life as Ben Franklin. Some of these lyrics are inspired by the ET information. And then some of these lyrics are inspired by the love of rock and roll. So,
are you the reincarnation? Wait a minute, back up.
Go ahead.
Are you the reincarnation of Ben Franklin?
Yes, and that's in my book as well. I got a really good picture of Ben Franklin and myself side by side. It's uncanny.
Oh, you never told me that.
Now, I lecture on the Constitution and Declaration, and in my conference up here, Red, Fight, and Blue, I do 1-hour lectures on the Constitution and Declaration. I'm a big fan of inventing new things and giving it away, not patenting them.
Have you been to Pennsylvania?
Sorry?
Have you been to Pennsylvania?
I have. Oh, not in this lifetime. I haven't been. I've been to
right.
Boston is about as close as I've gotten.
Right. Well, Ben, did he actually go to Boston? Maybe. I mean, he went all over. But you got to go to Pennsylvania just on principle, just to get a bead, just to see. Am I getting a visceral feeling?
See the Philadelphia. Well, when I was 13, I was already getting. I don't like to use the word visions. I was getting experiences where I could smell mold on the sails of ships going across the Atlantic. Okay. And I've never been on a sailing ship, especially on the Atlantic. I was California growed. So
because he went to France, didn't he, Ben Franklin?
A couple of times, yeah. Actually, he was a official and other times unofficial ambassador from the colonies to France.
Yeah, which was a big deal back then. I mean,
and some French women, and when you get some memories, sometimes it can be kind of embarrassing.
Yeah, I have a lot of memories of other lifetimes. We just can.
Yeah, I had another lifetime where I was born in 1860. As a black girl, and in 1863, in the War of Northern Aggression, that's what we called it. The North killed us all, killed our family, killed our animals, burned our farm down, everything.
God, I know.
Yeah.
I have ancestors. My great grandfather fought in that war.
And there's a lot of people who are now coming to a similar conclusion, although the data still out is not a conclusion, but a tendency that every time we come back in the opposite role. So male, female,
I
male,
don't buy
female.
into that. I do not buy into that.
Don't buy that?
No, not at all. Well, not from my experience, because I know a number of my lifetimes. I don't know, over 30 or so. And I work with people on past lives, and no, it's not. It seems to be predominant, either male or female. That's my experience.
Well, I have lives remembrances of both. I don't know if there's other lives that happen that are in between that haven't come to me yet. So I can't say that there's a overall consensus one way or the other.
Well, Michael, this is what I say. There was never a time when I wasn't, and there'll never be a time when I'm not. Well, what does this mean? And this is applies to all of us. We just keep going on and on. There's not like when people think of past life, they think, yeah, they'll go back maybe 500 years or something. How about, thousands or hundreds of thousands? And that doesn't even include off-planet lives. And it just goes
Exactly right.
on and on
I
and
tell
on.
people about the time that our energies were inside of the 15 footers who had 6 fingers and 6 toes on the planet Tiamat. I mean, the same energy that's in us it also was that energy. So
Just
you
out of
can go from
curiosity.
being to being, planet to planet,
Well, what do you
maybe
think?
verse to verse. I don't know.
All right. So now let's just real quickly, we're almost out of time, not completely. Well, and we could talk forever, but let me just get your opinion on this. So the Sumerians, according to, oh my God, why can I not remember his name? Oh, Sitchin,
Sitchin,
said, that Tiamo, or how do you say it, Tiamat,
Tiamat.
was the beginning of the moon, if I remember right. It was the beginning of the earth, and that it was the freaking moon is a satellite. So I can't buy into this. What do you think about the moon?
Okay. So according to the information that I was downloaded in the dream,
Okay.
when Tiamat's explosion is what brought Mars into its own orbit, because Mars was a moon around Tiamat. And when Tiamat was destroyed by the bad guys, by the way, in this good versus evil war that's now back at World War IV here in our own 3-4D dimension, when Mars got blown away from the planet and it scarred one side of Mars really badly, and the other side of Mars as smooth as can be, and it pushed it towards the sun, and it caught into a new orbit about 120 million miles closer than where it was. So Mars was in fact, the face on Mars, because Mars was tidal locked with Tiamat, just like our moon is tidal locked with Earth. So the
Oh,
same
I
size
didn't know
face.
that. Okay.
And Tiamat, when Tiamat's man in the moon was the face on Mars. And we don't have. I mean, the man in the moon. You hear about man in the moon. Look, there's a man in the moon. There's no. I don't care where you're at on Earth. You look at the moon. There's no man. There's no face. Doesn't work that way. But in our DNA, that man in the moon concept was brought from the Tiamat Mars period, when we existed as a whole different kind of being. So the moon was brought to Earth to stabilize the Earth, because in a different period, Venus, a rogue planet, was captured by our solar system's gravity and brought into and orbiting the sun in the opposite direction of all the other planets. So Venus is going the other way. All the planets are going this way around the sun. And when it came in, it came close enough to Earth to cause Earth to tip 23.5 degrees in about 15 minutes. That threw Earth into a cataclysm of water sloshing and volcanoes going and all kinds of stuff going off. And Earth became unstable as a laboratory. And that's Earth's purpose, is be a laboratory for different beings during different periods. The Draco had it for 500 million years. Right. So when Earth became unstable for a laboratory, the Draco figured out that they could bring a gravitational body to a certain point and stabilize the Earth and have a watch station close by off Earth so that they can monitor their laboratory. And they're the ones that brought the moon here. It's hollow. It's only got about a 9-mile thick surface. It's all tech. And the backside is ridiculous with antennas and buildings and stuff coming off of it.
Pretty much. I would agree with all of that. And shamanically, I traveled there. This is like 20 years ago. And I got real, I don't want to, I may edit this out. Okay. This may be one of those parts I edit out. And I traveled there, and I went to go onto the dark side, so to speak. And there were beings there that stopped me, beings that are friendly to me. And they said, you can't go over here. I'm like, why not? I'm like, I'm checking things out. They said, absolutely not. This is a bad place for you, Susan. Yeah. And we're preventing you from going one step further. So you go back home right now to Earth, and you just forget about fishing around over here.
It's a dark alley. It's a dark alley for humans.
Exactly. It frightened me.
Yeah.
And I was in a group with like 30 other people, shamanic practitioners that were also traveling to the same destination. And they all came back with visions of, oh, we saw angels, we saw this, we saw that. And I'm thinking, what the hell? I was younger, and I thought, well, I must have done something wrong. And then the person leading the group said, actually, Susan's the only one that authentically went there because it's not a happy go lucky, let's go talk about angels type of place.
Yeah.
It's pretty freaking intense. And some of us aren't equipped, me being one of them, to go and deal with these beings. Like, I don't need to be there. I don't need to go there. I don't need to
Correct.
be there.
Yeah. And the knowledge, having the knowledge and the burden of the knowledge and your desire to want to share it would be a bad thing.
I think that's probably also true. And I have a big mouth. They probably said, you know what, just turn her right around right now. She can't keep a secret if her life depended on it. So,
Neil Armstrong actually did step foot on the moon, although it wasn't from the lunar module. And they were told in no uncertain terms, this is not your world. Don't come here.
yeah, don't come back, which probably explains why we haven't been back.
Well, we have 4,000 square feet or so on the backside that is part of the space program's, I would say it's administrative center. But Mars is really where our largest deposit is.
4,000 square feet.
4,000 square feet. Yeah.
That's nothing. I mean, the venue that we're holding this conference at, it's a little over 4,000 square feet.
Yeah. And there were humans sacrificed for that.
Not for our venue, but for let's
Excellent.
hope human sacrifice.
Excellent. Yes. Yeah. No, that's what we're fighting against. That's what this really boils down to, ironically. The war of good and evil is World War IV that we're in right now. It's about the survival of the human race on planet Earth, and it's our humans created with the unalienable right to have enjoyment and take that data back to the collective when we leave the meat suit behind, or are we supposed to be slaves in masses to a handful who answer to the Draco? It's like that's what this war is on Earth right now about.
That's a good summary right there. Very clean, succinct summary. And that is what I agree completely. That's exactly what this is about. And do we have the right to have our own freedom and our own happiness, even if we were created by other beings? Do we have that? Do we have that? Do we have that ability? Or are other beings saying, no, you don't have the ability? You've been.
Doesn't matter what the other beings say. I have a pretty good direct line to the source, or what a lot of people call the Akashic record.
Right.
And we are, this is a necessary fight because it's not just being in this world of creativity and freedom. It's knowing and manifesting the future of this world. And we have been woefully insufficient in our manifesting over the last 60 years.
Because they've kept it from us from knowing how to do it. And whenever anyone knew how to do it, they killed them and burned them and put them on a
Well,
stick.
that and bred in circuses. And so people don't dive in and learn. When I found out in 1999 that there's no law requiring you to have a social security number. And in fact, if you do, it makes you federal personnel by definition under Title V. Nobody knew that. And so I immediately had to cancel the SS5 and give the number back because I don't want to be their property.
Are you allowed to? Wait a minute, you're able to give your social security number back?
Well, here's the thing. You reserve all rights except for those things that have been given to someone else in the Constitution or whatnot by law. And there's nothing that says you can't cancel your number. In addition, I've got a copy of a letter from the Assistant Director of Social Security that says, and I quote, "There is no law requiring you to have a social security number to live and work in the United States. We just may not be able to track your income."
Isn't that interesting? And interestingly enough, my mother never had one because she never had the birth certificate and she never had she never got the social security. She did get the death certificate, but then she didn't want to be buried anywhere. So her ashes, she was cremated, was spread all over New Hampshire and places. So she's like, you can't get there from here. You can't track her.
Right. Nice. Yeah, no, and this is information is just information. It's not suggestion for anybody to do
Right.
anything.
Right.
I have the luxury of having a photographic memory. So if I go read something, I can repeat it word for word in court or whatever.
Right.
You have to be able to have that kind of strength to pull something like this off to change your life, unless you come and become part of a team. But
Right.
by law, if you don't make federal income and you haven't been told with a CFR under certain legal conditions and writings by the Department of Treasury that you have to have a number, you don't have to have a number.
Oh, this is very good news. There's somebody I know not too far from me right now who doesn't have an accurate number because they got the numbers all jumbled up. Maybe she doesn't want to get a number actually.
Well, that's the thing is once you have it's because of 5 USC 552 section A, subsection A, subsection 13, 552A sub 13, that defines federal personnel. And federal personnel includes anybody in the military, including the reserve component, anybody
Mhm.
who's a employee of the federal government. That includes, you know, uh, administrative people and anybody who is eligible for immediate or deferred payment from any federally funded retirement program. They are federal personnel. Now, if you have a number, you are eligible for a deferred payment from the federally funded retirement program called Social Security.
Right.
So if you have a number, you are technically federal personnel. I found that kind of like a leash. Couldn't dig it. So
Right.
I took the card and number, sent it back to the government, canceled the SS5, which is the agreement. It's not a contract. There's only one signature at the bottom. That's yours. It's an agreement. So you cancel the agreement by sending all the property to the other party back to them and telling them it's canceled. And there's nothing in the SSA, the Social Security Act, there's nothing in there that says that this number is in perpetuity. There's nothing that says you can't cancel. Therefore, you can, because all the
Actually,
rights go to you.
the number that I have, my social security number is like one of the first ones. It was recycled. But the first three digits are 001.
Wow. Don't give the other ones.
I won't. Or I'll edit it out.
Right? Love the edit button.
I do. All right. Well, I should probably let you go because we're a little
Awesome.
over time. And
Been fun.
yeah, it was fun. And I'm really looking forward to next month. And thank you. And I'm gonna give you extra room, extra time so that people can also ask questions and all that.
Great. Because the questions, the question and answer thing, when no matter what question gets asked, there's an answer. It's pretty powerful.
Yeah, I agree. And you're good. So, well, thank you, Michael, very much. And I will be seeing you soon.
Till later, Susan. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.